This channel is proudly brought to you by... I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Linking on my brain. Okay. Linking on my brain. I got linking on my brain. Whoa.
What's up, guys? It's Mike the MGTOW man again, bringing another video. So I want to give you, gentlemen, 5 examples of women who displayed obvious, premeditated divorce rape. Now, we talk about divorce rape all the time. And I think deep down, most of us know that in a lot of these cases, especially these high-profile cases, it was premeditated. Now, we don't get to listen in on everybody's divorce down the street, but when these high-profile celebrities get divorced, it's publicized. All the juicy details are thrown out into the wind for everybody to see. And it's kind of disgusting that we live in that kind of culture that glorifies all of the drama in divorce. But at the same time, when you're MGTOW, when you're red-pilled, you find it to be useful. I don't look into these things now as entertainment, like a lot of people do in this country, and it's sick. It's very disgusting. A lot of people look at these divorce cases as a means of entertainment. Whereas guys like us, we're trying to warn people about dark female nature, about the divorce rates. We're trying to, convince men that marriage is a raw deal for men. And what better, examples do we have other than these men who get robbed in divorce court? They get robbed. They get robbed of a lot more than just money. And here are a few cases just to prove that. And here's the top 5. Amy Irving married Steven Spielberg and was only married for 4 years. And she was awarded $100 million, which at the time was half of Steven's fortune. And when they got married, she did in fact sign a prenup, right? At least that's what they said. But here's the kicker. He was fooled. Steven was fooled. And he was a fool. Because that prenup, it wasn't notarized. It wasn't on paper, right? And we already know as MGTOW men that a lot of these gynocentric judges out here, they will wipe their ass with a prenup. Oftentimes, a lot of times they will. But in this specific case, Steven Spielberg, he's supposed to be this genius, right? He wrote the prenup on a napkin. Yes, gentlemen, you heard me right. A fucking napkin. Now, when you run out of toilet paper, I know some of you guys have been there. What do you go get? You go get the napkins. You go get the paper towels. And you hang your head in shame while you're in the bathroom, right? Prenups, it's already toilet paper, right? This motherfucker went and got a napkin and said, "Here you go, judge. Wipe your ass with this." And that's exactly what happened. He lost half of his fortune in that divorce. $100 million. That's the first one. That's the first example right there. But guys, number 1, don't get married. Number 1, don't get married. And number 2, prenups are toilet paper. All right, we're going to the second example. Number 2, Amber Heard. Amber Heard was a lesbian woman, make no mistake. And she left her female lover for Johnny Depp. And that was the first red flag. She was obviously a lesbian before she got with Johnny Depp. So there was obviously a motive other than sexual attraction for her to get with Johnny Depp. And they got married, back in 2015, and their marriage was over in less than a year. Amber Heard, said yes to Johnny Depp's proposal. In less than a year, this fucking carpet-munching fucking lesbian divorces him. And guess what the court said? They said, it's okay. It's okay that you fooled Johnny Depp. We know you're a lesbian. It's okay. It's fine. We're still going to give you $7 million fucking dollars. He paid $7 million to have consistent access to pussy for 1 year. And given the fact that she was a lesbian, now you can look it up, she was a lesbian. I doubt that she was giving it up often. I really doubt she was giving it up often. But she still got the $7 million fucking dollars back in 2016 when she divorce raped Johnny Depp. I mean, it's fucking disgusting. And it was, like I said, it was clearly just a lesbian out to suck dick long enough, just long enough to get that huge settlement. Think about it, guys. When you reach that high status, don't hand your resources over to a bitch just so you can get, a little bit of ass here and there. It's stupid. It's absolutely foolish. And at some point, MGTOW needs to take over and wake people up. Number 3. Heather Mills married Paul McCarthy in 2002. Now, this is one of the most notorious cases where a woman obviously strategized to, divorce rape a man. It was premeditated divorce rape in this case. All right, Heather Mills, she married Paul McCarthy in 2002 and then divorced him in 2008 after just 6 years into the marriage. And then she conveniently divorces, Paul right after they have their first child. Because women know as soon as they, pop a child out, that they are legally guaranteed a lifelong check from, high status men, once divorce is finalized. And they know this. So basically, she basically just tried to get pregnant for 6 years straight. And when it happened, then she was like, good, now I have this leverage. So she tried to get pregnant for 6 years straight as an intentional means of leverage for the future divorce rape that she would, later pursue against Paul. And she asked for $250 million for that 6-year marriage. $250 million. Just so, just for the consistent pussy of 6 years. And that's if she gave it up. Again, I got to mention that. That's if she gave it up, in a normal fashion, which I don't think a lot of these bitches do. I think they give it up a lot at the beginning. I think towards the end, they don't give it up at all. And that should be a warning sign to any of those married men out there that might be stumbling upon MGTOW content, and you might be afraid that some shit might go down. Yeah, it might. 80% chance. You might be worried out there that this is what women are going to do. It is. This is what women want to do. But in the case of this cunt, she asked for $250 million fucking dollars. Just for the supposed consent for consistent pussy for 6 years. $250 million. But she didn't get it. She only got $50 million. Yeah, I know, right, guys? Only $50 million. And some people might say that, that I'm being a little bit too harsh on her by saying that this divorce rape that she put against Paul was intentionally motivated. It was motivated by her dark female nature. Some people might say I'm being, a bit harsh on Heather. But it's the truth. The truth is harsh. And honestly, I don't really care what people have to say. Because this is what I really think. I think a lot of the people who diss our analysis on things like this, you're just being naive. And if you want to continue to be naive, go ahead. But, here's another interesting fact about Heather Mills, is that she tapped Paul's phone multiple times during the marriage. Multiple times. And she did this in order to entrap him so she could then easily divorce rape him later, and so that she would have something to use against him in court. Think about it. And that's because women don't leave men of high status unless they can convince the media and the mainstream public, or maybe just their friends and family, that they themselves as women have the high ground to do so, to leave these men. So when she was tapping his phones, obviously she couldn't find anything on the guy, so she had to tap his phones. So she was looking for any excuse to frame him as the bad guy. And women do this type of behavior when they intend to ruin a man or take his fortune. They often have to paint the man as the villain when they have high status, so the media sides with them and backs up the gynocentrism in their actions and in their intentions. And they damn sure can't let people know that it was their hypergamy, their disloyalty and their lack of commitment as women that actually ended the relationship. Because these women, they want a check. And they also don't want people to shame them later for what they're doing. So they have to paint the guy as the villain. In fact, it was also told that Heather was so outraged that she only got $50 million in the settlement that she also poured a glass of water on Paul's attorney's head after the proceedings. And that was in spite of being awarded $50 million. If there was a man that did that, just went and poured a glass of water on his wife's attorney's head, he would be locked up for assault instantly. And to me, based on her actions and based on her requests and the demands at the, and the time frame of the divorce as well, and the fact that she filed the divorce just after their first child, it clearly sounds like one of the most obvious premeditated divorce rape cases that I've ever seen, and that I've ever even, had the disadvantage of having to actually look up. It's sad that I had to look up these cases, but it's one of the most obvious divorce rapes that I've ever seen. Number 4, Ivana Trump. Ivana Trump married Donald Trump in 1977. And in 1992, just 15 years later, she filed for divorce. And yes, she contested the prenup, as all gold diggers do. And it was rumored later that she was awarded $20 million, as well as a $14 million estate in Connecticut. And she was even awarded $350,000 in annual alimony. And that's after getting the $20 million, and that's after getting the $14 million estate in Connecticut. And for what? Because she had sex with the man a few times over the course of 15 years. $20 million, $14 million estate, and $350,000 in annual alimony. Number 5. Just a few years ago, Norma Gibson and Tyrese Gibson had a divorce. And then Norma made many false claims of abuse against Tyrese Gibson, and as a result, he had his daughter taken away from him, simply because he's a man. Guilty until proven innocent. And then he was forced to pay $13,000 a month in child support payments for a daughter that he wasn't even allowed to see. And it's not because he did anything wrong, but because it was the mother's wishes. And that's all that it takes nowadays. Once the mother, says, "Oh, I feel like we're in danger," as soon as she says that, makes up a bunch of, false claims, it's over for you as a man. They white knight for her, and they make sure you're not going to see your child or your children. And that's what happened to Tyrese. Of course, there was no evidence of this. There was nothing to support that claim. And then he went public with that video. I'm sure everybody has seen it, where he went, and he was crying, and he was in genuine agony over not being able to see his child. And of course, all of the celebrities laughed at him. If it was a woman crying about not seeing her children, everybody wants to side with her, at least, a good portion of people do. But when it's a man, it was crickets. The only people that had his back was us and probably his direct family members, and that was it. Everybody else made fun of the man. But later it was found that he was innocent, and the charges were dropped, and the $13,000 a month was lowered to $10,000 a month. and he can now see his daughter. However, this is not a happy ending. The actions of his ex-wife is leaving him in ruins, and he still has to pay $10,000 a month. She refuses to get a job. She's surviving on the alimony paychecks. And, court documents reportedly show that Tyrese is paying $114,000, per month for his mortgage for the house that he had before the divorce. He had a pretty good life before this divorce. So he's paying $114,000 per month in his, in mortgage and also in child care, groceries, utilities, plus the $10,000 in child support payments. Tyrese has also reported that, that Hollywood executives are not calling him as often for acting roles. Following the child abuse investigations over his daughter a few Octobers ago. I don't think it was last October. I think it was the October before last. 2 Octobers ago. He hasn't been in any movies. And, these executives in Hollywood, they're just not calling him anymore because of those claims. Again, the investigation was dropped, and thus he should be, innocent in the public eye. Only that society is gynocentric. So instead, he's seen as a monster. All at the lying word of a woman who he married, got into a divorce with, and then she ruined his name and she ruined his career. So obviously, his income has taken a huge hit, and his life is nearly in ruins, all because he proposed. Tyrese is claiming in the documents that he is now averaging a $51,000 monthly income, and that his savings is rapidly taking a nosedive. Rapidly. Now you look at his expense. $120,000 a month is his expense, but he's only pulling in $51,000. He's going to lose the house. He's going to lose the mortgage on his house, and he's going to lose his home that that he could afford at one point in his life. He had this great success, pulling in millions of dollars, right? It's all being drained. He built up this huge life, for his wife and his family, and she shit on it. She didn't respect the man. She obviously wouldn't allow him to lead, and that caused issues in their relationship. She had a baby with him. She used that child against him, and now he's going to lose his home. And he's losing his career. Even though he was found innocent, society still paints him as guilty. Even if the child support payments have been lowered, he still has to pay $10,000 a month. That's insane. That's insane by anyone's standards, to pay $10,000 a month or anything higher than that, as some of these other gentlemen. Hell, Owen Wilson pays about $35,000 a month. Should have put him on the list too. So he's averaging in $51,000 in monthly income. And he has gone from having, just before this happened, he had at least $800,000 in savings in his cash reserve. And the last time it was reported, he had about $130,000 in that same savings. So he went from $800,000 in that savings to $130,000. And some of you, might not pity a man who only has $130K in the bank. But look at it from his side of things. He worked so hard over the last 20 years to become an actor. He may not be your favorite actor, but give the man credit where credit's due. 20 years to perfect the art of acting and to get those roles and to make those connections and to make the income that he was making. And then it all was just stripped away from him by a woman. At one time, he could afford that huge house and that nice car and live it up, in the high end of life. At one time, he had it all. But he got married again. He got married, didn't he? And now after divorce, he's likely going to lose everything. Think about it, guys. Think about it. So those are my 5 examples of well-known, well-documented, premeditated divorce rape cases, where these men built their lives up and then they were ruthlessly divorce raped and lives ruined simply because they were men. Anyways, this is Mike the MGTOW Man signing off, and as always, never give in, never surrender, never get married, never hand over your fucking success or your career to a bitch. Never. MGTOW for life.